we shall begin. So Tonya Sweat was born in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Her and her family have been living in Prince George's County since August of 2011. Tonya, she has not one, not three, but 5 degrees. That's correct. 5 degrees. Yes, she is a lifelong professional learner. She's an attorney and a managing member at Sweatism LLC. Don't you love it? Sweatism LLC. And she has also been a public servant for 20 years, a military veteran, and a federal employee. She is a wife, a mom, a community advocate, a child advocate, an entrepreneur. So we have a champion for our community. So we thank you all so much for joining us, and let's welcome Tonya.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. First, I have to thank Ms. Nikki Newsom for coordinating, orchestrating, organizing this event, and for agreeing to be the host this evening. Thank you, Nikki, so much. It is an honor and a pleasure to know that there are people in the community who believe in me and my cause. And basically, that is to be a public servant. That's what I've done all my life. And I'm here to serve you. And it humbles me to know that there are others who want to work with me in service to the community. So I thank you so much, Nikki, because this would not have happened tonight without you. I also want to thank my campaign team. You guys are awesome, small in numbers, but it does not take a lot of people to get it done. In the government, we used to say, do more with less. And I hated that phrase because that just meant they were going to work your butt off. But I have a loyal, dedicated team of people, and I'm not going to call names tonight, but let me tell you, the day will come when I will get to show them off and let them shine. They are dedicated and awesome. Prince Georgians, some of them worked with me in the government. So all I can say is thank you, thank you, thank you. And I love you all. I love you all to life. I also want to thank my family and introduce them to you this evening. First and foremost, I'm already starting to call this young man my first gentleman, my husband, my best friend, my partner, my lover, my baby daddy, the father of my children, my heart and soul, Mr. Terry Sweat.
Hello, everyone.
And my shadow, my baby girl, my princess, my angel, little Miss Terry Sweat. And there's one more important man in my life. He's away at college and couldn't be with us this evening. He's preparing for final exams and doing his football workout, so he couldn't even get on Zoom this evening. But I have his permission to share his photo with you. My firstborn, Joshua, and I'm hoping that he'll get some time off from football this summer to hang out with me a little bit and travel around the county so that you'll be able to meet him in person. But that's the family. My bonus daughters are missing because they're grown. They have families of their own. But trust me, when the time comes, I'm gonna fly them here and make sure they bring the grands so you get to see my big blended family. And we might even bring out the puppy dog. But in addition to thanking the important people in my life and on the team, I also want to thank you, the audience, because I recognize first and foremost it's dinner time. And usually in my house, we're sitting around the table, stuffing ourselves at this moment, getting ready to watch something on television before we put Miss Terry down for bed. So I appreciate that this is a very precious moment in most homes. And I don't take it for granted, nor do I take it lightly, that you would take time tonight to sit down and have a conversation with me about what we can do together to make Prince George's County a stronger community and an even better place to live and raise a family. So to my audience, I thank you. And I noticed one other very special person, her camera's off, and I'm not going to ask her to turn it on, but I just noticed my mom was on the line. At first, she wasn't sure she was going to make it because she had church obligations, but it appears she was able to sneak in. So I have to say to Reverend Eva Summers, the queen mother of the family, thank you, Mama, for being here. I love you. And I know you'll be calling me later to tell me how well or how bad I've done tonight. So I'll be looking forward to that phone call. But we're going to get down to business. Why are we here? We are here because I'm new to some. To others, I am known, but I'm known in one particular area, education and children. There are many in the county who've never heard my name, never seen my face, have no idea who I am. And so because I have stepped up and said, I want to be your county executive, because I've now put myself out in the limelight, I recognize that it is extremely important that I give you the opportunity to get to know me, who I am, where I'm from, what I'm about. The other reason why we're here is because I also want to get to know you. I want to know what's important to you. I want to know what you care about. I want to know what you want to see done in Prince George's County. I am not a politician. Matter of fact, I hate politics. I grew up around politics. And I tell people, when I say I grew up around politics, I mean that. I went to college with the late Senator Strom Thurmond's eldest daughter, and we were friends. We served in sorority council together. I was at the University of South Carolina and got the awful news that she had been hit by a drunk driver. I was there and later heard when she passed away. So I know about politics. It was my friend. I went to school with the same late senator's eldest son. We weren't friends because he's a little bit younger than I am, but we knew each other from our time together in law school. I grew up watching the current majority whip in the United States House of Representatives because my mother is a retired educator and she was active in the political scene as it relates to education and teachers' rights. So she worked a lot with Congressman Jim Clyburn as it relates to human rights and equal rights in the commission in South Carolina. So I got to watch Congressman Clyburn as he grew from public servant in the state of South Carolina to become the representative from my home district. I grew up with a lot of current politicians, went to school with them, know them well. They're my friends. So I know a lot about politics. I've watched it. I've supported many politicians working in the executive branch of the United States government. I served a number of presidents, elected officials, appointed officials. So I know how politics works, and I don't like the games. So I can honestly say I hate politics, but I am a public servant. Always have been, always will be. I went to law school because I wanted to help people. I actually thought I could save the world and almost drove myself to a nervous breakdown after my first year and had to learn a very hard lesson. One person cannot save the world alone. It takes a team. I have dedicated my life, however, to serving others. I don't work in a big firm. When I left the federal government in 2014, I did it solely because I needed to focus on my family and be more present for my children, especially my son who was entering high school. And I started working on my own and practicing law as a sole practitioner. I've always said, though, I never wanted to work for a large firm because the people who need me the most can't afford to pay me. And so, believe it or not, I donate a lot of my time in legal service to the community. I don't always get paid for what I do because, again, it's about service, especially to those who don't know where to get it, who can't afford it. So that's why I'm running, because I want to serve the community. And I am concerned about what I see in our home, Prince George's County. And I don't know if you've had the opportunity to take a look at my website, but I will tell you my 3 priorities, and they're broad categories. And yes, that was done on purpose. But my priorities are children, our community, and the last C is competence. And I don't say that to offend anyone. I don't say that as a dig to anyone. I chose that word because it is important to me that I be the best that I can be in service to all. It is also important to me that those who work with me be the best that they can be in service to all. And that service is rendered with competence. Because there are many, many, many who are depending on my leadership and my team's leadership to get it right. And if we're not willing to put our best foot forward and offer excellence at all times, then the county will not get excellence. In addition, I want to help every Prince Georgian from age 0 to 100 plus be the best person that he or she can be. My mother raised me, and I have lived by the Wilkerson High School creed or motto, as you'd like to call it. And that motto was, strive to excel, not to equal. So it's not about being like James or John or Martha or Maggie, but it's about being the best Tonya that I can be. And so competence has to be a priority to me. And that's actually one of the reasons why I am a lifelong professional learner, because the world is changing, nothing is static. And so I make it my business, I make it an effort every day to learn something new so that I can remain competent and confident in what I know so that I can offer you the best that I have to give. And if I don't know it immediately, my promise to you is I'm going to find it. I'm going to research it. I'm going to learn it, because that's what you deserve from your leader. And so with that little bit, that little introduction, I'm going to turn it back over to Nikki so that she can moderate this conversation, because tonight is really not all about me. It's about you too. And I want to hear from you. So come on, family. Come on, community. Let's talk.
Yes, thank you so much, Tonya. That was so amazing. And yes, you all, if anybody is ready to start asking their questions, you can please hit the raise hand button, or either you can type your question in the chat box. So please, let's get started asking your questions. And thank you all again for joining us.
Looks like we have one question.
Yeah, we do have one question. I'm gonna I have a couple actually for you until I see somebody raise their hand. So the first one will be, can you tell us what qualifications you feel you have to hold this office?
Thank you for that question. Qualifications. Nikki mentioned a few when she did my introduction, but I'm gonna list the 5 degrees that I have and then talk to you a little bit about how I've used them in my career. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in computer science. I have a Juris Doctorate degree or a law degree. Along with that Juris Doctorate degree, I am licensed to practice law in 3 jurisdictions: the state of Maryland, the District of Columbia, and the state of South Carolina. I have also earned the right to argue cases before the Supreme Court of the United States and several other federal courts in this nation. In addition to those 2 degrees, I also have an Associate of Science degree in Business Administration. I have a certificate in Business Management, and I have a Master's of Business Administration. Now, what have I done with 5 degrees? Well, as Nikki mentioned, I served in the military for 7 years, and that's where I basically learned the practice of law. While serving in uniform, I was a prosecutor. I was a chief prosecutor, believe it or not, right here at Andrews Air Force Base. I left that job and became the senior defense counsel for Andrews Air Force Base and Fort George G. Meade Army Post right here in Maryland. During that time, I was also a special assistant U.S. attorney for the District of Maryland in Greenbelt. I represented the United States government in environmental cases. I worked on government contracts. I also served as an administrative lawyer in that I represented the United States government in employment law cases. So I have a wealth of experience as a lawyer. Not only that, I served in the federal government as first an attorney, and I wrote regulations, I wrote laws, I wrote policies relating to financial regulations and consumer protection in the United States. One of my proudest moments, believe it or not, was working at the National Credit Union Administration and serving with other attorneys from the other federal regulators in DC. And we worked on the Truth in Lending Act. And some say it was a horrible regulation, but Congress said it was good, but it wasn't good enough. And they took the regulation that we wrote as a team and turned it into what we now know as the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. Yep, that was me. So yeah, I got some horror stories though about that one, I can tell you. Not only did I serve as a lawyer writing regulations, laws, and policies, I also got the opportunity to exercise the leadership I learned in the uniformed service and served as a manager and a director as a civil servant. And I managed and oversaw a nationwide multi-million-dollar program in which we went into financial institutions, namely credit unions, and examined their practices and their lending policies and procedures. And yep, there were some of them I had to tell that you're not doing the right thing, we need you to fix it. There was some that I had the pleasure of saying, you're doing a good job, keep it up. So I've done that. I've managed a team of people, and that team of people has not always sat in the office with me. I wasn't always able to reach them. The team of examiners that I was responsible for were nationwide, and I was responsible for managing the budget that they used to travel, telling them when they had to get on a plane and go somewhere, when they could work, when they couldn't work. So I know what it is, if you will, to be a quote unquote boss. After I left the federal service, I then stretched my wings and became an entrepreneur. My husband and I actually opened a restaurant out in Accokeek. It was Wing Heaven Accokeek. Unfortunately, that restaurant is no longer with us for a number of reasons, but mainly because as Black business owners, we were unable to get the financial capital we needed to keep our doors open. Not from the county, not from the state, not even from the federal government. So I know the stress and the strain of being a small business owner and employing people and feeling responsible for their lives and their well-being. Because you see, my husband and I, we invested our retirement fund to open that business. We invested $250,000. So we know how much it costs to run a business. I'm still a business owner. I'm still running my own consulting firm, practicing law. I'm still training professionals in the federal government how to do their job. And in addition to that, yes, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a cousin, I'm an aunt, I'm a friend. I tell you all of that because it takes all of that to be a leader. It takes all of that to be a county executive. And some would ask, why not run for the school board? Why not run for the county council? Well, I say this to you. I'm not a legislator, and I know that about me. I am an executor. The military trained me to plan and to execute. Working in the executive branch of the United States government taught me to plan and execute. I know how to implement the plan. I tell anybody, and my friends will tell you this because they've heard me say it a number of times. I will beat you at the rules all day, every day. I don't care what they are. So you give me the rules and I'm going to make them work for you. That's why the best place for me to serve Prince George's County is as your county executive. I do not need to be in a room horse trading your life away to get somebody to pass a policy or an ordinance, because I know how that works. That's not me. My integrity will not allow me to do that. But what I will do is take the results of those horse trading games that are played in politics and put those rules in action so that you get the best out of those rules. And when they don't work, I'll be the first person to let the county council know this ain't working. We need something else.
Thank you so much. So we do have some questions in the chat. And the first one is, what is your plan for the public school system? Many residents have concerns over the quality of education the schools provide and are more likely to place their children in private schools. What steps will you take to enhance Prince George's County public schools?
Thank you for that question. And the truth of the matter is, education is why I ended up in this position in the first place. I am a proud product of the public school system in this nation. And if it helped me to become the success that I am, it can do that for any child. I got my education in public schools in South Carolina, and yes, the state of Maryland. I'm, like most, am not happy about what I see in Prince George's County Public Schools. And I'll have you know, I'm not new to this area. I've been in the DMV now for 20 plus years. And when I first moved here, it was before the birth of my first son, my only son. And I lived in Virginia because I was stationed at the Pentagon. It was an easy trip on the metro. But I will tell you, everybody that I talked to said you don't want to live in Prince George's County because the schools are awful. That hurt. Because when I learned intimately who Prince George's County is and what Prince George's County is all about, and knowing that we run this town, I hated to hear that our children are not being educated, especially considering I'm the daughter of a public educator. That's a problem for me. No, I'm not happy with what I see. Do I think we need to add more board members? No, that's not the answer. From my perspective, the problems in our school system start with the adults, start with us. First and foremost, we need to make sure we elect an educated, qualified board of education. And when I say educated, that does not mean they got to have 5 degrees like me, because most people don't. Okay, I'm a nerd. It is what it is. When I say educated, what I mean is we need members on that Board of Education who understand what it is to manage a government agency, because the Board of Education is a government agency. We need elected officials on the Board of Education who understand what it is to manage people, because they're managers. Our school system is 20,000 plus strong employees. We need members on the Board of Education who understand what it is to write policy that others have to follow, because they're also policymakers. They write policy. It's not about getting a title or because I served on student government, I have a right to be on the Board of Education. No, that's not it. We need elected officials on the Board of Education who understand that they are public servants and that they work for the parents, the students, and the educators who are associated with Prince George's County Public Schools. What is my plan? My plan, because of the way the law is written, would be to make sure we have a strong, qualified CEO, as it's entitled under the law, or school superintendent who understands management, budgeting, and financial management, as well as understands education. Because it's going to take a strong, qualified, educated team to manage the school system. I have no control over who serves on the Board of Education. That's left to the community. I acknowledge and understand that right now the law says the county executive has the right to appoint 4. And I will do my duty under the law to appoint 4 members of the Board of Education. But the majority of the board belongs to the community. And what I will do, what I promise you I will do, is work with the law that is in place right now to appoint public servants who have a heart like me to serve. And I will hire an educated, qualified, responsible CEO or school superintendent who is going to manage the resources well and do what we need to do to improve our school system. I've watched what's happened in PGCPS and Baltimore City since living in Prince George's County. And I'm here to tell you, Baltimore City went from the bottom of the pack to number 17. Prince George's County is still standing at 23. My question is why? And it's not the children. It's not the children. I can say that because I've volunteered and I've served as a substitute teacher in the school system. We have bright, brilliant geniuses in this county, but we're not tapping into their potential and bringing it out. We as adults have to do better. I will also stand with the Board of Education and with the school's CEO, and I will fight the state to make sure we get the money needed to improve our school facilities. We have some of the oldest school buildings in the state, and that is shameful. That's shameful. I drive through Charles County, and I can tell you the number of schools that have been built in Charles County in just the last 5 years. It's sad compared to what's happening in Prince George's County. And my question is why? Now, I speculate and I have some theories on what's going on. I promise you, you put me in the office as county exec, we're going to get to the bottom of what's going on and we're going to fix it. And I will tell you, the first thing we got to fix is the P3 project. Because I've read the 178-page contract. And the biggest flaw in that thing is it does not have the total cost in the contract. The school board says it's going to cost us over about 33 years, not 30, but 33 years. It's going to cost us about $1.2 billion. The contract does not say that. So right now we're sitting in a position where we're going to get bled dry and we're going to have to raise the taxes to pay the bill. And we don't even know what the bill is going to be in 30 years. And those who have signed that contract will be long gone. And God help us, our children will be struggling to pay the bill if they're still living here. So one of the first things we got to do is fix that P3 contract. We got to put a cap on it, because the board action memorandum is not a part of the contract. So that's not going to limit the price. That's the first fix. Right after I hire the right people to help me fix it.
Thank you. And we have a follow-up to that. What specific policies would you want the superintendent to focus on to advance the school district?
Unfortunately, because of COVID, the first thing we got to focus on are our babies and their education. I know you all have heard the media talk about the learning loss. We've heard even our own school system talk about the learning loss and why we need to get our children back into a hybrid model of schooling. So that's going to be the first focus. Let's determine how much learning loss we actually have. And what I am not going to accept is we can't figure that out, because there is a way to figure that out. That's the first step. First thing first, the children first. Once we figure out what the learning loss is for our children, we've got to look at our curriculum and figure out how we overcome that loss. And I do not use the word rehabilitation because that's going to take too long and we don't have that kind of time. Our children are growing faster than we can teach them. So what I would like to see happen is an accelerated curriculum be put in place so that in essence, teachers are rehabbing students as they teach them new concepts. Believe it or not, there is a way to do that. So that means now we've got to invest in our teachers and develop them so they understand what an accelerated curriculum is and how to do accelerated learning. We also need to look at our policies regarding grading. We have to look at our policies regarding attendance. We have to look at our policies regarding our teachers showing up to work on time. Because yeah, I've seen some things there too that I don't like. And we have to hold everybody accountable. I need you to understand something. Education is a three-legged table. It's a tripod. One leg breaks, the whole system fails. We've got to hold our educators accountable. We've got to hold our parents accountable. And we have to hold our students accountable. And I do believe if educators, parents, and students work together with the support of the community, we can make this happen. We can get our children to where they need to be. We can get to the top. We can be one of the top 10 school systems in the state and not the bottom 10. And I'm going to be in the struggle with you because understand something. My son graduated from Prince Georgians County Public Schools in 2020. My 9-year-old baby that I introduced you to is currently a student at Accokeek Academy. No, she's not going to public school. So I'm invested in making this happen, not just for you, but for my own. No, she's not going to private school. I'm gonna run my husband out of the room.
Okay, and I believe you just touched on this. I don't know if you want to add more to it or not, but this person is basically in agreement with you. The school system needs accountability, starting from the top to the bottom. I've seen the non-conformance to the policy and regulations, yet the individuals still remain. There is too much dancing around the issues. No one is watching, will you?
Absolutely. I've been watching. I got into this as the PTA president of Oxon Hill High School. And when I saw what I saw in the school system, I got mad. I'm still mad. Excuse my French, I'm pissed off, okay? And this is the thing that really stuck with me, because when I realized what was really happening in PGCPS, something in me said, if our education system is operating this way, it didn't start here. It doesn't end here. So I started looking at other things in the county. And sure enough, guess what? We got the same problems in other areas in the county too. So I started even paying closer attention. And unfortunately, for some folks in the county, I had too much time on my hands, because you see, I left my federal government job. I didn't have to work 12, 13, 14, 15 hours no more. My life was dedicated to my children. So yes, I was volunteering in Oxon Hills High School 3 times a day, half a day. And when I wasn't in the school, I was knocking on doors. I was visiting the county council members. I was visiting school board members. I was asking questions. Why is it this way? Why are we doing it that way? I was watching the school board. I was monitoring the meetings and reading the minutes. Do you think that's going to stop just because I'm county exec? No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to keep doing it for a couple of reasons. Number one, like I told you, my baby's still in the school system. So as long as she's in the school system, I'm definitely going to watch what's going on, because I need her to get a very good education, because I need her to do what her brother's doing. She got to go to college. She can't stay in my house forever. She can stay till she get married, but she can't stay forever. Number two, under the law, thank you to former county executive Ruth Sharon Baker. The CEO works for who? The county executive. CEO doesn't work for the school board anymore. The CEO works for the county executive. You cannot evaluate your employee's job performance if you're not monitoring the job performance. So I have to pay attention to what's going on. It is not my intention to get involved with the Board of Education, other than to support them as necessary. The 4 people that I will be obligated to appoint to that board by law, I will appoint with the expectation that they will be qualified and experienced to do the job and do it well. And if I find that they're not doing the job and doing it well, I might have to ask them to leave. And I'm okay with that. But the school system technically is a shared responsibility now of the Board of Education and the county executive. So you absolutely better know, believe, trust that yes, I will be watching. There'll be times when I'm going to step into the board meeting and sit in the audience just like other parents do. And if I need to speak out, I will speak out.
Thank you. And now we have Enoch. Enoch, at this time, if you can please unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. First and foremost, thank you, Miss Sweet, for hosting this. I know we talked when you host your last event, but first let me say something. I do apologize for not emailing you back. School's been really busy. But I just feel like it's best if I rather talk than type in an email, because it saves me time. I'm gonna try my best not to talk too much, but then I'm still gonna talk too much because yeah. So for those who do not know, my name is Enoch. I'm a tile. I go to Charles Herbert Flowers. I'm also part of the 3D Scholars program. If you don't know what that is, feel free to search it up. It's a wonderful program, one of the best program probably in the United States that it's limited to certain kids. I'm also in the 9th grade. I currently serve as my class president, and I'm also serve as the vice chair on the state student board member communication committee. So as a 9th grader, I've held many leadership positions while I was in schools since middle school, school president, stuff like that. So there's a really lot of stuff that, are important, but, when it comes to education, that's not something I feel like we should play with. And if there's one thing that I learned from my mentor, if it's not good at the top, what makes you think it'll be good at the bottom? And I feel like one thing that we really need to do is accountability. And like as being a student, from Prince Georgians, not only a student, but a student who has parents who pay tax dollars and other parents who pay for our county, education, stuff like that. I feel like it's really important that we have people held to the accountability, because we are also putting money into your pockets too, not only into our schools. So my first concern, is really there is, like you said, there is going to be a learning gap, because not only speaking from my experience, because I know there's so much information. If I was in person, I would have understood. Because after speaking with multiple students, hosting different meetings with students on leadership forums, stuff like that, we can all really agree is that you can't say the teacher's not teaching, but they're following the curriculum, but it's if you're taking it and if you're actually using it and interpreting so that you can learn. So it's basically they're giving information, now you need to go and learn it. So and that's the part for some students, they can't teach themselves. So that's one issue that we have, which will be our learning gap. And there is not only our learning gap, but also our achievement gap, because stuff like specialty programs, there's so many stuff that I feel like us being in Prince George, they say Prince George's County is the best, like one of the most richest Black county in Prince George's, in the state of Maryland, probably in the country, one of the top richest African American country. But then, okay, like on the outside, you see it's good, but then when you come inside, there's still stuff that we need to fix as a county, although it's still bad. And in order for us to do that, we need to make sure that we help people kind of make sure that we make the right decision, because you might make a decision now, but it might impact the future generation, but you won't be here. So you always have to think about stuff that you do in the long run. Like, for example, you said the P3 program. I felt like the P3 program was really something that, the county, and I won't say her name, but I'll say the current county executive, is something that she had broad that she wanted to move forward. I don't know. I get the foundation. Like I joined one of their little meetings at that. I get the foundation of the thing. It's a good thing, but at the same time, like you said, it's still tax dollars money. It's not like, oh, it was a grant fund that paid for these schools. And then on top of that, I guess you can write this down, because I'm actually a lot of questions. So I'm just going to say a lot of something. So my first question that I could really ask you, then I'll say my other questions and then you can answer them all at one time. So my first question is, as me being someone who plans on running for the student board member, probably the upcoming year, or probably by the time you come county executive, my 12th grade, you probably, by God's grace, you will win, because you're gonna have a wonderful team like us to help you achieve that goal. My first thing is, do you support a fully elected board? Because I know I do, because I feel like, what's the point of you appointing people to a position if, first of all, one thing that we all know, everybody that's appointed onto the county executive board, that's appointed to the Board of Education, no matter what, you always run your decision by your county executive, because they made you in that position. And if they felt like, oh no, you're not making the right decision, they're gonna remove you. So I feel like, even though you have that permission to do that, I feel like you should still let the people that live in that state, allow them to vote. Because I feel like appointed positions, that's if it's real, if they really want to do it, they can go ahead and run if they really want to do it. There's no biggie. So I feel like appointed position on a board of education, I feel like that should be taken away. If it's some type of law, it can be vetoed, it could be taken away. Be the change, start something new where we have fully elected board members on the board, which is not appointed, because those appointed members could be affecting a decision that like I just saw something in the news where the current counties that is trying to pass a legislation to add more appointed members, which will most definitely affect the decisions I make. So that's my first question about what we could do about the appointed position to make that a fully elected board, because if it is something that we're supposed to, a board that is supposed to be voted on, not appointed on, because if it was supposed to be appointed, you could have just fully appointed the whole board and have nobody say in it. So I feel like that's something we should look at. And then my next question is, when it comes to like teacher pay, although I'm a student, I still got to advocate for our teachers, because one thing that you realize is, if you ask students nowadays, they really tend not to be like, oh, I want to go into the educational field. Although we have there's so many other, but if there's less percent people that want to go into the education field, and I feel like that's something that we should start working on, especially more. Although Prince George's County mostly has black educator, I feel like we also need black male educators too. Prince George's County could be a more diverse in things that we do. So we need to also look when it comes to teacher pay, increasing it, and so on. My third thing is, you spoke about how, with the Prince George's County and, our school system and so on, so on. I feel like it's really important that when we have these specialty programs, it's really a disadvantage to many, but it's beneficial to all. I feel like a test score shouldn't determine if you get into a program, and let alone a lottery system. Oh, you just randomly apply, and a lottery determines if you get into a program. Although that's the best way to do, but I feel like everyone should still have that fair opportunity, because I feel like if you can't provide it for all, then what's the purpose of you bringing it? And if we have the type of funding, I don't think funding is really an issue, because funding might be an issue, but that's something.
Okay, I think Enoch muted himself. It's probably a good time for me to jump in, because he said a whole lot.
I'm sorry, I was talking too much. I'm sorry.
No, baby, you weren't talking too much. You're fine. First of all, I want to congratulate you, Enoch. We have not had the opportunity yet to meet in person, and I'm going to make sure that happens. I want everybody to know that this young man, a ninth grader at Charles Herbert Flowers High School here in Prince George's County, saw my call for volunteers and showed up at my first call meeting for volunteers. And so I'm adopting this young man as a mentee, because he is shown just through his own actions. And I'm going to have to make sure I meet his parents as well and congratulate them for what they're doing and instilling in him, because he showed up on a Saturday morning and said, I want to be here to help. I might not be able to vote for you because I'm not old enough yet, but I want to support you. And for that, Enoch, I love you. I adore you. You didn't make me cry tonight, but you made me cry a month ago. You got me, brother. And I appreciate you for being here. You've said a whole lot, and I'm going to tell you something. I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. And if anyone were to talk to my babies, as I call them, and I'm trying to stop calling them my babies because they're now young adults from Oxon Hill High School, I heard them too. And I promise you, I'm sitting here taking notes. Everything you've said is right on point. I agree with you. I support you. And I'm going to work on every single one of them. First thing you said, top down, it comes from the leadership. You're absolutely correct. It begins at the top. And so first and foremost, I will carry myself, I will work, I will act always with the children first, especially when it comes to issues involving education. The P3 project, I don't want anybody to leave this virtual meeting tonight confused. Yes, we need new schools. Yes, our schools need to be renovated. My concern is, how much are we going to pay for it and for how long? And we don't have a definitive answer to that. I heard what the Board of Education said, but what I'm telling you is the contractors on the other side of the table did not agree to that number. That number is not in the document that was signed by the county executive, the chairman of the county council, and the chairman of the Board of Education at the time, because there's a memorandum of understanding between the county and the school system that this contract will be paid for, and nobody has an official signed, sealed, and delivered dollar amount that also involves the contractor. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's a vague contract. And so if we go to court, there's no understanding between the parties involved as to how much this thing was going to cost. So that's what I want to fix. I don't want to stop the construction because we need the buildings. Our children need the schools. Not only do they need the 9 schools under the P3 contract, we need to do something with about 195 schools. I think we've gotten only about 13, if my count is correct, new schools in the last 10 years or so. So we've got 100 and so other schools that need to be addressed as well. And when you look at the numbers in the P3 contract, we're going to pay more for maintenance over 30 years for 9 schools than we pay for maintenance for 208 schools now over 30 years. So we got to figure out where we're going to get more money from so that all of our schools are updated and upgraded. The learning gap, we're going to deal with that. We have to. And the one thing you have not heard me say is it's the teachers. Because I don't blame the teachers. I know we got some good ones. I know we have some bad ones. But the bottom line is they're our employees. They've agreed to do a job, and we must help them do that job to the best of their abilities. So we're going to work with our educators to address that learning gap so that all of our children get the best education possible. As far as the fully elected school board, absolutely, yes, I support a fully elected school board. I was not happy with the way former county executive Rushern Baker took over the school system, if you will. I thought it was disingenuous. I thought that the county residents should have been more involved in that. I understand, however, there has been a lot of tension and conflict within our school board for many years. We've got to deal with that. And so as the county executive, unfortunately, like I told you, I'm not a legislator. I don't make the law. I got to live with the laws as they are on the books. If the laws change back before I'm elected and there's a fully elected school board, because the current county executive said she supported that. She promised that she was going to make that happen. Hadn't happened yet. Now I understand, and I saw the article on Fox 5 DC that she's asking for additional authority to appoint more members of the school board. I don't support that. The problem is not adding more people to the tension. The problem is pulling up your sleeves and getting in there and figure out what the dang problem is and try to resolve it. That's what I do as an executor. That's what I do as a lawyer. That's what I do as an advisor. As a county executive, that's what I would do. I'm not going to go in there and tell them what to do, but I want to go into the boardroom and say, what's really going on here? Why is there so much conflict and tension? Why can't we resolve this and work this out as professionals in the best interest of our children? If I gotta find additional resources to get training and consultants and experts and mediators and coaches, then that's maybe what we need to do. But at some point, we got to stop the craziness and we got to get back down to business and we got to put the children first. So yes, fully elected school board, I do support that. All I ask is that the community make sure they take a look at who they voting into these jobs. Because it's our fault they causing this craziness in the school board because we elected 9 of them rascals. I tell you, I hold everybody accountable. We casted our vote. So we voted for this mess. We now got to figure out how we're going to get out of it. No, we don't need to add any more members to the school board. Quite frankly, we can take the 4 appointed ones off and go back to a total of 9. I'm good with that. Every district gets to elect their representative. And then your district holds your representative accountable. That's how this thing is supposed to work. That's why we call it a democracy. The other thing, I understand that authority is limited. Yes, county executive has the authority to hire the CEO or the school superintendent, whatever you want to call the person. The county executive doesn't control the policies nor the money that goes to the school system. That's why it's important to make sure we have qualified individuals who understand government, management, financial management, so they don't blow the money. But I will tell you as a county executive, if I learn that there are violations of law or policy, I'm gonna be the first one to call them out. I'm the first one because I work for you. I'm your voice. Teacher pay, yes. Teachers deserve to get paid. Teachers got shafted during the recession. Wasn't their fault, wasn't the county's fault. County didn't have the revenue. You can't pay somebody what you don't have. That's just one of them, those sentiments, one of those concepts, one of the principles of government budgeting. In the federal government, we call it the Anti-Deficiency Act. You spend money you ain't got, that's a jailable offense. The state of Maryland is required to have a balanced budget every year. Maryland doesn't print nor make money. Prince George's County doesn't print or make money. So likewise, Prince George's County has to have a balanced budget every year. I get that. You don't have the money, you can't pay. But do the teachers deserve more pay? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's something I'm willing to fight for. If the money's in the budget, I don't have a problem recommending to the county council they approve the increase in salary because the teachers deserve it. They do a lot for us and our families. There is not enough money in the world that could thank them for the job that they do. And trust me, this one's personal for me. Because remember, my mom's a retired public school educator. My mom spent her entire public career in the classroom, a master teacher of several subjects, several grade levels, and she chose to stay in the classroom. And the sad part about that is I made more money my first year out of law school than my mom made in her 28th year teaching. And I was only making $48,000 in 1997. That's sad. So this is personal for me. Yes, teachers deserve to get paid. And we want to pay them what they're worth. We can't afford to pay them what they're worth, but we're going to get them what they definitely deserve and what the budget will allow. Black male educators, absolutely, absolutely. In a county that is 64% African-American, our young Black children need to see Black fathers, Black brothers, Black uncles in the classroom. And I will tell you, my son, who is a very good football player, just told me he wants to be an educator. And that was a proud moment for me. Because while he had at one time dreams and aspirations of playing in the NFL, now he's saying, Mom, I want to work with children. And so nothing made my heart happier 2 weeks ago than when he told me he was going to focus on getting an education in education so that he could work with children. Because men are the best example, good men are the best example our children can see. I grew up not knowing my father, but I had some very good men in my life, and I hold them dear to this day because they covered me, they loved me, they provided for me, and they made sure that I became the woman that I am today. So yes, I strongly support our brothers, whatever they want to do, classroom or not, as long as it's legal. That's all I ask. And specialty programs, Enoch, baby, yes, I hear you. I grew up in a community where we had specialty programs in every school. That has changed over the years. Now it's gone to a regional model. And because Prince George's County is large, we're looking at about 500 square miles. We got 208 schools in our school system. I would tell you money is going to be the factor. How much can we afford to pay to put specialty programs in every school? I would love to have tag in every school. I would love to have science and tech in every school. I would love to have those specialty programs, a regional program for those disabled children who need the extra special nurturing and care to educate them. I would love to have that in every school. Again, the limiting factor is always that green dollar. I'll stretch it as far as I can and do the best that I can and work with the school system to make sure all of our children have the resources that they need to get the best start in life that they can get and be as successful as I am, or better yet, even more successful than I am. That's the goal. That's the goal. So yes, I will work my tail off. And if I can't get it at every school, maybe we should shrink the region so we can get more programs throughout the county. How about that?
Thank you. We have our next question. Hi, I am a minority business owner in the county, and with the American Rescue Plan Act in place, it has been a challenge to get concrete answers for banks and other team of advisors. Is there a solid plan in place to simplify things so that we can have the opportunity to take advantage of all community lending programs for small businesses?
Ooh, that's a heavy question. I have a plan. I have ideas on how we can do this. Having spent a large portion of my career as a federal financial regulator, I will tell you, the laws are meant to ensure equal access to credit for all, but the practices don't work out that way. And I can share that and say that in all honesty, because now I've been on both sides of the table. I've been the regulator, and unfortunately, I've been the victim of the practices as a business owner. So yes, I know what the deal is, okay? I have a client right now who applied for a PPP loan and was denied because the lender said they couldn't verify my client's bank account. What the heck? Really? That's crazy. That's a practice. As long as the client's name is on the account and the money's being used for the business and the client can provide the documentation, I'm like scratching my head. I'm still scratching my head trying to figure out, okay, what's the deal? And unfortunately, it is extremely difficult to get somebody at the SBA on the phone without waiting for like 2 hours. And I can't afford to charge my client $300 for me to sit on hold for 2 hours. So we're trying to figure this out. So yeah, I know the games that are played and that are still being played with our small minority business owners. There are avenues to beat the big banks at their game, because there's always two ways to skin a cat. We have in Prince George's County a thing called the Economic Development Corporation. We can use the EDC to get the money to our small business owners here in the county. I don't understand why the county's not doing that. And there may be some who have benefited from the programs of the EDC. I will tell you, my husband and I were not beneficiaries. We tried. We were told we were too small. And I'm sure we were not the first nor the last business owner in the county to hear that. Wrong answer. The federal government allows community development fund institutions to focus on small, minority, disadvantaged businesses. There is nothing to prevent our Economic Development Corporation from becoming a CDFI and being one of those institutions that can get money to our small, minority business owners. I don't understand why that's not happening. But if you elect me as your county executive, we can change some things, okay? We have other institutions in the county who claim they're here to support small and minority businesses. Again, I will tell you, not what I heard, I will tell you what I know, because we knocked on those doors too. They didn't help us because our restaurant is gone. They focus more on technology companies. Okay, that's great. I'm sure we do have some small minority companies in the county focused on technology, but that's not everybody's story. The other thing I learned about some of those companies who are not traditional banks, their board of directors are all bankers. So guess what? They're running those lending institutions as if they were big banks and using the same practices that the big banks use. So small minority businesses are not benefiting. I'm going to inquire as to why. If you elect me as your county executive, I may not have the authority to appoint the directors at those small community lenders, but I sure can ask enough questions to make people think again. And because I understand the federal law and how this works, because remember, I wrote some of that law. You can't BS me. We're gonna have to change some things so that our small minority businesses in Prince George's County can survive this pandemic and thrive after it's over. I also want to put in place an incubator to train minorities on how to manage a business. There's so much more that goes into it than just putting out there your primary skill. I'm a lawyer. I practice law all day in my sleep. But guess what? I got to pay my taxes. I got to file paperwork. I got to make sure my EIN number and my state identification number remains in good standing, especially if I want to compete for contracts. I got to make sure I file the right form and it's not necessarily a IRS form 1040. I got to make sure the income that comes into my business is accounted for and attributed to me so that I get my Social Security credit so that when I turn 62, I can get my little check unless I'm too rich to get a check. And that's okay because I still want my mama to get my check because she's drawing Social Security. Hey, somebody got to get that Social Security money I'm paying to the system. It's not just about going out here and fixing people's plumbing because that's what you're trained to do. If you're going to run a business, you got to know financial management. And QuickBooks is good, but QuickBooks don't do it all. You got to understand a little bit about business taxes. If you're selling stuff, you got to know that you got to file with the Department of Taxation and Assessments to get your number, ID number. You got to file that sales tax every month because they'll come put a lien on your stuff if you don't pay that state their sales tax. You got to know how to do all this stuff. Who's teaching us? Because they don't teach us this stuff in school. That's what the incubator is for, to help entrepreneurs understand the technicalities of owning and running a business, so that while you're out there doing your plumbing work, you don't have the IRS knocking on your door, or you don't have the state comptroller knocking on your door. You don't get that letter saying we put a lien on your property because you haven't paid your taxes, and you're going to pay what taxes? I didn't even know I had to pay taxes. And trust me, you don't pay your taxes to the federal government. Now you got interest and penalties, and that stuff multiplies very quickly. And now you got to shut your business down because you didn't pay the government what was due to the government. You got to render to Caesar what is Caesar's. And trust me, if you don't render to Caesar, Caesar going to render unto you. So I need to help you stay out of trouble with the government. And the best way to do that is to create an incubator in the county for our small businesses. I will work with Prince Georgians Community College to host that incubator and set it up in not just the central location in Largo, but let's do this in remote sites because this is a large county, so that our small business owners can get to the classes that they need to get to understand what it takes to be successful. So yeah, I'm all in for the entrepreneurs and the small business owners because I am one. I know the pain of losing a business. My husband and I just got finished dealing with Caesar and paying them all them taxes we owed. Because we shut the business down, we filed a business bankruptcy, but that doesn't erase the tax debt. You still got to pay the government. We paid the government. Who, thank you, Jesus, we paid the government. And now we're in the process of putting things back together and making it right with our angel donors and investors who are willing to support us. Because even though the bankruptcy court said you ain't got to pay them, these are my friends and my family, y'all. And I got to answer to a higher power one day. So I get it. I get it. And I don't want you to have to go through as a business owner what my husband and I went through. So yes, that's on my list of priorities. That falls under community for me. And that also falls under the competency area. So yes, we'll be working on that too.
Perfect. So our next question, recently the news reported of, I think that's supposed to be rough, Prince George's County police officers that are no longer allowed to testify in court cases due to their credibility issues. In your opinion, if they cannot be trusted, can they be trusted as police officers in general? And should they remain on the police force?
Yeah, that's another issue in the county. Police reform is a problem, surprisingly enough, in a majority county. And what you're talking about there is the strengthening of the policies for what they call the Brady list. As a former chief prosecutor, I had a very special relationship with law enforcement, because if they don't do the investigation well, if they taint the evidence, I can't prosecute the case. And unfortunately, that's where we found ourselves now in Prince George's County. Now, there's a whole lot of other things we could talk about under that, but I'm gonna stick to the question. There's a whole lot of other stuff we need to do with our police department, but I'm gonna stick to the question. As far as the officers who find themselves on that Brady list, and we can't trust you now in court, can you be trusted elsewhere? That's the question. I don't know. Before I make a blanket general statement and say no, I need to know a little bit more about this person. Should they be on the street? Should they be working with, involved with the community? No, because they've already proven they can't be trusted to do that. But I could foresee some other things they could do in the police department that doesn't involve working with the community or touching evidence that's needed to prosecute a case. So take them off the street, give them some administrative duties. We got some administrative jobs that won't require a lot of overtime. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry, that slipped. But yeah, we got some jobs that won't require overtime They can work on a desk. There's some things that they can do in the police department to keep the job, but no, they don't need to interact with the community anymore. They don't need to be involved in investigations. They don't need to collect evidence. No, 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 no. Because you've already proven you can't do that. We just have to find something else for you to do. Property manager. Now you're managing government property. We can keep a close eye on you because you got to keep inventory on the cars and the guns and whatever else, the desks, the pencils. There's something you can do. I'm not gonna say they need to be fired, but them duties need to be limited. How about that?
All right. So what is your stance on placing decision makers in your administration that do not reside in the county? Do you support decision makers who have no personal investment in the county?
That's one of our biggest problems. I'm just gonna say it. Okay. If you hadn't figured it out by now, what you see is what you get. I tell it to you straight talk, no chaser. That is one of the biggest problems in this county. We're not circling the dollar. We're not recycling our dollar. We're paying too many people who live in surrounding counties. And guess what? We don't reap the benefits of their income taxes because yes, a portion of your state income taxes comes back to Prince George's County. But if you don't live here and you work here, that income tax goes to your home county. Yeah, that's a problem. We can increase the budget if we start hiring from within. We can improve community relations if we hire from within. Our police department would be reformed significantly if we hired from within. In order for the county's economy to improve, we've got to recycle the dollar right here in our county. I love you. I appreciate your service. I like what you're doing for me. But when you take your real estate or your homeowner's tax back to St. Mary's, back to Calvary, back to Montgomery, back to Anne Arundel County, it does no good for Prince George's County. And there are lots of people who come from other counties and work here because the pay is good. But all we get is the services from their work. If we got more of those income taxes, if they lived here and paid the real estate taxes, the biggest chunk of it is the income taxes, we'd have more revenue to put into our schools. We'd have more money to resurface our broken roads. More of our residents would have greater disposable income that would allow us to attract the businesses that we want and need right here in Prince George's County. But we're allowing too much of Prince George's dollars to go elsewhere.
So our next question, evaluating the current administration and programs, what would you do differently? Improvements or changes would you make?
Ooh, we talked about a lot of them tonight. We've hit a lot of them already. We got to tackle education. That is a major priority. We know we got to deal with police reform. When you have a task force of your own residents look at your police force and tell you that there are discriminatory practices going on in that police department, that has got to be fixed. The police chief works for the county executive. I don't know how that's going on in the county, and that, yeah, no, that ain't happening under my watch. I'm just gonna say it that way. We've got to address the needs of our small business owners. We have in this county over 1,100 small minority-owned businesses. I honestly believe they're more than that. We need to get more of our small minority businesses certified as small minority-owned businesses so that they're qualified to compete for and get the contracting dollars that come through this county. I want more of our businesses to reap the benefits of the set-asides and the benefits entitled to them when they get that certification. So yes, we're going to train our small business owners how to manage their businesses. I can't train you how to do the job, but I can help you understand what it takes to run a business in the state of Maryland and comply with the laws so that you can reap the benefits of the government contracts that come through here. I want to build a cabinet of qualified, experienced, knowledgeable directors and officers who know how to file, draft, write, apply for grants from the federal government to do what needs to get done, whether it's environmental needs, educational needs, business needs, transportation needs. We can apply for grants from the Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration to help us do what we need to do, especially when the state decides it's not going to help us. And we all know that happens in Maryland. The money for the expansion of Highway 210, don't know how many of you know, has now been diverted from Highway 210 to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and the 301 bridge in Charles County. So once the first intersection is completed, the work will stop. But they're not telling people that. And if you're not paying attention to the website or you're not reading the paper, you don't know that the expansion of 210 is going to come to an end at the end of 2022. And nobody can tell us when, if ever, the state's going to invest the money, because that's a state highway. But the money is now diverted to 301. And yes, they are building a new bridge in Charles County to cross over into King George County, Virginia. And if you were watching the news, they're getting ready to do a new bridge over the Chesapeake Bay over there in Annapolis. What about us? Because now you're about to jack up traffic in the southern part of Prince George's County. And if we can finish that expansion, that opens the door to bringing new businesses to the southern part of the county to improve our economy. More than just dump trucks. That will be my focus. There's a way to get it done. And now that we have the right president in the White House, there will be grant funds available. We need to go get it. And oh, by the way, we need to go get our Head Start grant back too. But that's, again, another subject we'll talk about another day.
Okay, we have another question. Funding really doesn't reach the schoolhouse to assist schools to properly staff schools. How would you guarantee that funds will reach the schoolhouse?
Again, first things first, change the culture. Starts at the top. When you work in the government, you have to understand you're a public servant. Can you make a good living working for the government? Absolutely. 85% of us in this county are doing it every day. I've done it. My husband's doing it. Yes, you can make a good living working for the government, but that don't mean you got to make as much money as the president of the United States or nothing close. So first of all, we need to start looking at our pay and benefits packages for some of our leaders in the government. Public servants should not be hiring attorneys to negotiate contracts for them. Don't work that way. And yes, that was done in our school system. This is public record. Our current CEO makes over $300,000 a year. Why? Yes, it's a large school system. 208 schools is huge. But she makes more money than the county executive. The president of the United States makes about $425,000 a year. Yes, the title was changed to CEO by law. But a school system is not a private corporation. Public service. If you're not dedicated to public service, go work in the private sector. Because we're here to serve people. We're here to serve our fellow man. So first of all, we need not come to county government expecting to get rich. I think that's wrong. Now, I'm not so crazy to sit here and tell you I think I got to do this job for free. No. Everyone deserves to get paid, especially when you're doing the work. But we have to start rethinking what we think we deserve to do the work. So yes, that's going to be one of the things I look at. Look at the human resource plan, the staffing, the wages, the benefits, the salaries. And it makes no sense to pay somebody 6 figures to do a job and also give them a very nice benefits package, because I hear the county's health insurance is some of the best in the DMV. That has a value, because that means you're not paying as much money to go to the doctors as other people pay. So you save money when your insurance does what it's supposed to do. I'm here to tell you, I've had a lot of medical problems that I've had to address, and thank God my husband's retired from the military, because we get to use the military healthcare system. That has saved us a lot of money. 6 years ago, I had a 17-hour surgery and laid in the ICU for a week and laid in the hospital after that for another week. That wasn't cheap, but thank God for the military healthcare system, because we didn't have to pay for that. So we need to start remembering that when you give someone a phenomenal healthcare package, when you give someone a great retirement package, that's also a part of their salary, because ultimately it saves them money. So why do we need to pay someone on top of that $300,000 a year? And oh, by the way, the performance may not be as great as we're led to believe, because it's not showing itself that way. So we need to look at what our county officials are doing for the money that we're paying. And if they're not producing, if the results are not showing themselves, we need to start asking some hard questions. Is it easy? No, the work is not easy. Am I going to be able to turn things around overnight? No, I'm not. I'm not foolish enough to think that I am. But I do believe with accountability, with us working together, we can make some things happen during my term.
Thank you, Tonya, for all of the wonderful answers you have given us. I believe those are all of our questions for this evening. So if you can please give your closing remarks at this time.
Again, I can never say these 2 words enough. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because you didn't have to come on tonight to hear me run my mouth. You didn't have to come look in my face. And so it means more to me than you will ever know that you took the time to sit down and have this conversation with me. And I'm taking notes. I hear you. I heard your questions, and your questions tell me what is important to you. I hope my answers let you know how important those same items are to me and what I intend to do to address those things. And just like I say, we hold them accountable. I want you to hold me accountable too. I am, to some degree, a workaholic, okay? There will not be a time, if you put me in office, there will not be a time when you won't be able to get a message to me to let me know when I'm not doing a good job. There will be somebody to answer the phone. There will be someone reading the emails, and you will get a response, and it won't be a BS response. And I am human. I know I'm not perfect, and I know I'm not fallible. I'm not infallible, excuse me. So if I have failed you, I don't have a problem saying, I have failed. I need to fix it. And likewise, if I fail you, you have every right to say, don't come back. I will give you license to vote me out. Because that's your right. Because I understand, again, I work for you. I work for you. I will be in the office. I will be out in the community, not just to pass out boxes of food, not just to come to congratulatory events, not just to come to celebrations. I'll be out in the community when things are hot. God help us if the police should mess up. I'll be out there on the street with them going, we did you wrong. Let's fix it. If there's a major crisis, I'm going to be the first person you see. I may not be the first voice you hear because I'm going to let the experts do their job. But you better believe I'm going to be standing in the wings. And I'll be expecting a report the next day. How are we going to fix this? Because that's how I was trained as a leader. That's how I operate as a leader. I'm not here for fame. I'm not here for fortune. I'm not here for fashion. I'm here to work for you. And all I ask is that you give me the opportunity to roll up my sleeves, to work for you, to work with you, so that we can make Prince George's County one of the best communities to live in the United States of America and beyond. So again, I thank you for taking the time to come out to get to know me. I hope you like what you've heard. And even if you haven't, let me know. You can email me, info@tonyasweat.com. Feel free to call me, 301-541-8389. And that number does accept text messages. You can send messages through our website. And I do answer. I may answer you at 3 a.m. in the morning, but I will answer. So let me know what you think. And if you think I'm worthy of the opportunity, if you think I'm worthy of the shot to be your county executive, I ask that you go tell somebody about me. Ask them too to check me out, because it's everybody's right to vote for who they like. But I also think before you vote, you need to know who and what you're voting for. So I'm here to be scrutinized. I'm here to be questioned. And no question is off limits. I'm here to answer them for you. So again, thank you. I'm willing to serve. My hope and my prayer is that you let me.
Yes, thank you so much everyone for joining us and taking out your time this evening. And please remember, Tonya Sweat for County Executive, Prince George's County. And please engage her website, TonyaSweat.com. And please share it with all of your family and friends in Prince George's County. Thank you so much, and you all have a wonderful night.